Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Oh my gosh, Thomas, let's keep talking. I know there's another level here that you couldn't go into in the last video. So tell me a little bit more about Mr. Robert Mueller.
Oh, you mean, I think you called him Toast?
Yes, that
Mueller,
is.
Mueller
The last audio is called Mueller's Toast. I'll make sure to link it below.
Well, then this is burnt toast, because he is burnt.
Toast.
And we didn't complete I didn't complete a couple thoughts in this last talk that we were having, and I just want to make sure people understand. I just got through hearing some very supposed high-level pundits who happen to have similar names and very high-level positions talking about, Mueller and saying that he's a good guy. Oh my gosh, what are they going to say?
No, don't be that clandestine.
No, and also that Michael Horowitz might, be the hero or whatever. No, that's not correct. That's not what's going on. Here's what's going on. This is basically yellow journalism, oppositional research used against Trump that was an FBI-controlled counterintelligence. It wasn't an investigation. It was an attack. It's a George Soros regime change attack, but before the regime got created. After he was president-elect, it became a George Soros regime attack, which is then the first thing you do is question the election and try to discredit it and say that something was wrong, do it over, get the person thrown out, as Soros has done in many countries. So that's what was going on. There's different levels of this, and they're trying to hide all these things, and that's the reason that Mueller had to come in. He's finishing off the FBI's counterintelligence investigation of Donald Trump, which would be illegal at the moment that he was elected. From the time he was president-elect on through with the transition team to the time he was president, from 1 second after that, that is in fact conspiring treasonously to subsume the presidency, a duly elected president. It's a regime change, plain and simple. It's a coup d'etat. Well, Mueller's come in to cover that up. He's not really going to discover anything. It's just like 911. What did Mueller, the head of the FBI, discover about 911?
Nothing.
He didn't seem to notice that anything happened. Tower 7 fall, and what did he find in his investigation? Nothing. This guy is the worst cover-up guy. He might as well be Alan Dulles.
No, he's really good because it's
true.
all these years, and has anybody talked about it? Well, yes, some, and then they give us a conspiracy theorist label. Oh, I guess that's us.
It reminds me of when George Herbert Walker Bush ran for president. There was a joke going around that said, oh, look, this is all we know about George H.W. Bush, and you open up this pamphlet and it's blank pages. Oh, let's see. His dad, Prescott Bush, with the bank, was the financier of Adolf Hitler. They came out with $3 million in stolen gold. I mean, then that went into Riggs Bank, which was George H.W. Bush's brother's bank. I mean, these guys are so corrupt, and yet, you ask, and what do they say? George Mueller, beyond reproach. Robert Mueller, beyond reproach. Absolutely the highest ethics. Absolutely untouchable. Nonpartisan. So the praises go on because that's the CIA approach. You always say the lie, and it's so outrageous that you begin to believe it after a while. He is certainly not an honest cop, and he's not even a cop. He was never a cop. He's a lawyer. And the ones you don't trust at all are lawyers. Okay, I trusted Christopher Wray for a moment, thinking he might bring some sense to the FBI, but because he had been a cop, he'd been a cop on the beat. But no, I forgot. He had worked in the criminal division of the FBI. He's already tainted. He's already what I call CIA endorsed. I mean, there's literally a type of training that you go through when you have to become a counterintelligence agent, and that's what the CIA was created for: is lies, espionage, subversion. That's what they do. If they exist, that's what they'll do. That's why John F. Kennedy wanted to close it down. So when that happened in the FBI, it was supposed to only be for inside of America, the counterintelligence unit. Well, we went into who those people are and so on and so forth. But the point is that Mueller has a completely corrupt group. He kept making it more corrupt. Just when you thought he could add another more corrupt lawyer to his team, he did. Right on through to Andrew Weissman, the legal terrorist that we've talked about, one of these legal warlords. And that didn't stop him. Absolutely with complete impunity, without any compunction, without any morality whatsoever. look at the things that they have done, which is really nothing except hide and try to point at Trump, point at Trump, point at Trump. They were closing off the counterintelligence investigation because, remember, what did Comey say? There was no investigation of you, President Trump. 3 times he said that. That's a lie. Comey should go to jail for lying to the president under the conditions of him being the head of the head of the FBI. That's the way that works, folks. You cannot lie to the executive branch. That's your boss, and if you do, and it's a national security issue, that is punishable by all kinds of things. I know many of you want to see a military court.
Well, I do. Betsy's always going, military tribunal.
Robert Mueller.
Because I don't want to go through the trauma of all of this. These people have just taken so much of our lives. Oh,
whether they're in a government position, whether they're in a legal position as a lawyer, as a U.S. attorney, as an attorney general, as a U.S. attorney general, as a whatever these appointed political positions are, these lawyers are the worst. And Mueller is right up there in the top dozen worst lawyers. But they have all been working together since the early 90s, being trained by James Chandler and Michael Horowitz is just another one.
Why can't they be disbarred at the very least? I mean, aren't there attorneys out there that work in their jurisdictions that can file papers or whatever has to be done for disbarment hearings?
Let me just show you and remind you, Betsy, yes, I wish that were true.
Oh.
But, okay, when the grand jury was impaneled, they put judges on it. Who was one of the judges? A FISA court judge who actually probably granted the FISA court warrant against General Flynn, and he sat on the very court that ruled against him. But before they ruled against him and sentenced from above, he was told to recuse himself. Well, why didn't he recuse himself from the beginning? And the second that he recused himself, that entire grand jury impanelment is now compromised and must be thrown out. But are we going to talk about that? No. Are we going to talk about Judge Leon replacing Judge Chutkan with the Fusion GPS case so that the court, so that their bank accounts records can come out so that John Podesta and Hillary Clinton can go to jail where they belong because they colluded with foreign powers to meddle in the election. But worse than meddle in the election, we're talking about beyond smear campaigns, because it'd be okay if it ended when President-elect came to power after the election. That was an election. They could probably get away with it. That's what's called October surprises. As we know, Comey started unveiling his October surprises in July, and Mueller came in to cover up Comey's October surprises.
Slow down, please.
Well, the point is that Mueller is doing this on purpose. Why is Mueller leaking? Why did Mueller impanel a FISA court judge?
Because he's up the creek without a paddle.
And why did he have to have the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, come in and give some fake discoveries, 11-month investigation, and all they come up with are a little bit of supposedly, Bruce Orr or Nellie Orr, only the greatest probably State Department scandal, Department of Justice scandal in history, with espionage to boot. And then the love affair of Peter and Lisa should go down. It would probably make a movie. They'll make a book, no doubt.
Okay, we have rights because we told the story first. Okay?
That's right.
So
it's a love affair. 10,000 texts on government phones. Yes, you believe it. You can believe it because why? Kwame Kilpatrick taught them how to do this. Right. It's called sex texting.
Right.
And as we said before, the texts that he released were not the good sex texts, which would then talk about, some really juicy stuff. All they talked about was politicalization. Well, we know that it's politicized. Hello, Mueller stacked the team to make it politicized. Why? And why did it get worse over time? That's what I hear. Yes, pundits have made mistakes, and so we're trying to straighten them out because we depend, as you talk about it, as what? First tier, second tier, third tier, all these tiers. We're trying to give you real information that can be deduced and proven and works from fact, so that you can have discernment and you can look through the post-truth age, or what they call political falsehood age. They have all kinds of names for what they're doing, but what it is it turns it into chaos and you can't understand it, and we're trying to help you understand it. And when I hear some of the top names and voices in the alternative media making mistakes about this, it's sad. We need to see this for what it is. So let's explain the last thing that no one is addressing. That's why is Mueller making all these mistakes? You got any opinions on that, Betsy?
I have a lot of good opinions, but really, the people down below will say that they would rather hear your opinion. Okay, so I give
well,
up.
They're wrong. I get my opinions from you. So.
I give up. So hail to the chief now.
No,
tell us what you think.
Well, it's
you already know what I think.
It's very, very simple. He found out he has nothing. Even when he goes and steals evidence. Remember, Robert Mueller...
That's right. He has nothing. He had to actually go illegally steal something to have a case.
And even still doesn't have anything.
How pathetic. What a pathetic.
Still doesn't have anything. And so he's so friggin' embarrassed. But remember, he's the one who created at the U.S. federal level evidentiary rules that caused all kinds of evidence never to be introduced into 911 and many other things before he ever came to Washington. He was in Northern California and other places, New York, and so on and so forth. So he is the king of evidence hiding. So he went in, he couldn't find any evidence against Trump. He grabbed all the evidence he's hiding, and then he tried to linger throughout the next election for the presidential election. Why? Because he figured that would be a stain upon Trump. He tried to discredit, he tried to disarm, he tried to disqualify, he tried to in any way make it look bad for Trump. But he's not getting out early enough to save his own skin, so he's toast, now he's burnt toast, and so now the plan has changed.
Yes, Plan B. Are you going to talk about Plan B?
Yes.
Okay.
From July 2016 up until recently, up until they made the agreement with Michael Horowitz to release the information to take the heat off of the DOJ and the FBI and the congressional investigations from 5 different committees demanding them to turn over evidence, and they refused to, demanding McCabe come, demanding Stroke come, demanding Page come, demanding the Orrs come, demanding they all come so they can get their testimony before the U.S. American people. We are the court of opinion.
Yes.
And if they're going to be disgraced, good. They're going to be like all these sex aggressors in Congress that we pay, like Al Green, who put forth the impeachment accusation act against Trump, and it was shot down. Hello? $750,000 he paid to one of his staff that he assaulted so many times that he had to settle out of court. And it wasn't a charge brought against him, but he used his own private account. That's what they found with Gregory Meeks. That's what they found with John Connors. That's what they're finding with all these guys. They didn't even have to use the Congressional Congressional Compliance Committee to pay them off the $12 million, 264 cases. No, they paid it right out of their own expense account, and that's completely allowed, and that's why all those people are going down, and that's why True Pundit and the other Thomas Paine is saying those 264 names, 50 of them are coming out real soon. I don't know how many are coming out, but they're going to keep coming out because they can't get Trump. They found out that Lisa Bloom's mother is, what's her first name, something Allred?
Yeah, but everybody knows that.
Allred, the attorney, that's her mother.
I looked it up.
$750,000 to testify against Trump, fake testimonies of sexual whatever, behavior. Complete nonsense. We see all these people trying everything they can do. So what is Mueller doing now? It's very obvious what Mueller is doing now.
Please, he's like, girl rabbit, please don't throw me in that briar patch. And that's what he's saying. He's saying, all these people coming out, and they're saying, don't fire Mueller, because they want him to, because that's the only way for him to get out.
We have treasonous Eric Holder, who taught his treason to Loretta Lynch, to demand that Americans get out and commit crimes and riot in the street. And at one point, Loretta Lynch said that people will die, and that's good.
Yeah.
Those are her words, folks.
Yes.
We were told by the last Attorney General to get out in the streets and riot and kill in the resistance against a duly elected president. We were told by Eric Holder recently that if Trump fires Mueller, that's the last straw. He demands that all Americans, and he speaks for all Americans, need to go out and riot and stop this. In other words, start the resistance again. The resistance and Antifa have fizzled out because Michael Moore had to go to McDonald's and get another Big Mac. He didn't have time to continue the resistance, and neither did Madonna. She went on with her life. So the resistance has fizzled. There is no resistance.
No, but listen.
You can't resist a duly elected president. Do you know that of the 250 people elected for rioting after the Pussy Hat March, that they're all going to jail for 10 years? Each one of them, as the case comes up so far, has gone to jail for 10 years. You think those people are going to get out and riot anymore when they know it's illegal to riot with a mask and to carry a baseball bat and say it's a peaceful demonstration? These are lies. This is what's going on. So here's the deal.
Before you get to the deal, can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, so the other day, Christopher Wray is sitting there and giving testimony, and he's got a freaking purple tie on. Okay, now, maybe he hasn't a clue. His wife just said, oh, the purple really looks good, Chris, wear it. Okay, or maybe he's sending a message out that this is the Purple Revolution. He's one of the guys on the Purple Revolution team. But either way, he's an idiot, because if he doesn't understand what that purple represents to us here in the grassroots, or if he is signaling that he's part of the Purple Revolution, that's crazy. He should know better. All right, sorry. No, go ahead.
If you're so ignorant as not to know that George Soros has pulled off over a dozen color revolutions to depose duly elected leaders of foreign countries, and they're always color revolutions, and they're in line with the U.S. and with the CIA and with basically our corporate interests, and then they fly under the banner of humanitarian groups and groups that are supposedly going in watching voting and making sure the voting is not rigged. These are all color revolutions. So if you don't know this, please go to the Aim for Truth site, plug in color revolutions. You need to know that George Soros bought the Democratic National Conventions with the committee with over $6 billion worth of basically hidden donations. That's what was on the Democratic National Committee server. That, as well as some other programs written by Eric Schmidt that went in and targeted voters, and then went in and targeted your own algorithms for your Googling and for what appeared on your Facebook. These are all known facts, the U.S. Digital Service, just read our articles. But what was Mueller really trying to do right now since the plan has changed? The plan has been the same since July 2016, when the dossier, and it's a lie that the dossier was only began right at that point. That is a lie, and we pointed out why, and we pointed out when it really came about and why, because of the WikiLeaks. Podesta stated it was needed. Hillary agreed to it. All these things were agreed to in December 2015, that they would use Trump to work against the Democrats. They would use Hillary's greatest weakness, her connection to Russia and directly being in bed with Putin, and the Uranium One deal, turn it around, spin it, and use oppositional research made up by foreign agents. Christopher Steele is a foreign agent. Alexandra Chalupa is a foreign agent. The 3 Russian oligarchs mentioned that are now suing Fusion GPS are all, along with Alexei Gubarev, as well as Carter Page's lawsuit against CNN. These are lawsuits against these people who made up slanderous material, and not only did they slander people in it, but they tried to rig our election, and they almost won. We almost had Hillary the Queen turn America into no longer a republic. The last nail in the coffin was about to be nailed in, folks.
Oh, thank you so much, patriots out there, for getting up and voting that day. If you've listened to some of our other audios, you'll hear that it was worse than we thought. They had this election rigged so badly. The only way we could have overcome this was to have gotten up and voted, so everyone's vote that day counted.
So as I said, the deal here is the deal. And Mueller thinks he's dealing Trump. Ha! Trump is dealing Mueller. Why do you think Trump doesn't fire him? Why do you think Trump fired Comey? He fired Comey because he saw what Comey was doing with his perjury. And he knew it wasn't going to stop. He knew that Comey would continue to perjure himself until he was fired. There was no choice but to fire a lying, cheating, thieving, laptop, blueberry stealing, dreamer that he's going to be a president, crazy megalomaniac like James Comey. He had to be fired.
But how do
he
you
demanded
really
to be fired.
How do you really feel about him?
How? Oh, James Comey? I don't like him or his twin brother, who got the deal to build as his first building the entire FBI headquarters, and then as his first second contract in his life was to create the entire management system of the flow chart and an entire management system for the FBI. Did you know that? James Comey's brother was there setting the FBI exactly up the way that he told him to set it up before he came there, to make sure that none of the departments speak to one another, so all this could go on, so that an Andrew McCabe could be a seemingly Russian spy. He was a Russian spy. He worked with the TNAB, with the Uranium One scam, hiding it, making sure it never came to light. He, Comey, and Mueller were in on that and many other deals. So what is the deal between Trump and Mueller? Here's the deal. Mueller right now has given up all hope. Michael Horowitz was his last hope.
And we tanked him.
Here's what he's doing. He's trying to. He's begging to. The reason that they released that they went in and stole these documents from the president-elect's transition team, why did they let that go? Why did they let that out? Why did they let out all these improprieties in the court case? Why is it a completely compromised impanelment of both of the impanelings of both of the grand juries? Why? Because he wants to be fired. It's his last-ditch attempt. If Trump fires Mueller, please, Donald Trump, please, Mr. Trump, don't fire him. Continue to do what I know you're doing, which is you are playing that man for everything that you can get out of him. You want everyone to think that you're going to fire him. That's the reason Eric Holder has come out and everyone has demanded it. Trump, fire him, fire him, fire him. Don't fire him. Let him hang himself.
No, the thing is Trump is known for those famous words. And this time, the power lies in holding it within and never speaking the words.
Look what it took for Reince Priebus to leave. Look at Scaramucci. Look at the previous spokesperson for the press. Look at Sarah Huckabee's doing such a great job.
Sarah Sanders, honey.
Sanders.
Okay.
Well, sorry. I still associate her
with
her.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but the beautiful warrior.
I still like her dad.
You know, she's just having to sit there and babysit those reporters that are still sucking on paddles.
She's like Thor with his hammer, bopping them on the head like whack-a-moles.
Yeah.
Because why? They're a bunch of friggin' idiots. These people don't know anything we're telling you, and anyone who spent a few minutes researching any of this would come to these same conclusions, because it is not as it appears. Why has Mueller leaked everything? From the first moment on, the only thing he did not leak was George Papadopoulos. And that's because he intercepted him at the airport, took him into a closed room and manipulated him with the text of the exact words that he spoke and entrapped him. I mean, Papadopoulos was embarrassed because he believed that he was having an affair with a woman who was a direct relative of Putin. How naive could he be? Do you think Trump would listen to that man for 1 second? No. So, folks, don't believe it. I saw the other day 16 women who accused Trump. No, they took the best 4, and what's her name? Megyn Kelly, whatever the heck her name is. The best attempts they had. Do you realize that old hag, that woman that is old enough to be Trump's grandmother, worked for the Clinton Foundation?
I know.
Does anybody ever pay any attention to anything?
Well, if you're listening to mainstream media, you're still, being brainwashed, and it's all propaganda.
That Trump had 25,000 employees over time, and none of them ever sued him, and he never had to pay one off. And that guy will not pay anybody off in a lawsuit. He won't. He never has, that I know of, and I don't think he ever will, because he stands on his principles. So he never had to. And he's not going to have to now. And he doesn't have to with Russian collusion. And the whole thing, okay, here's the last-ditch attempt. How many times are we going to hear that Jared and Ivanka they weren't honest in revealing their Russian ties? Their 666 building, they love saying, Jared 666 building. Yeah, because it's 666. Yeah, that's the address. So what? Largest building purchase in New York history. Yes, he had all kinds of investors. He's not going to reveal they all had non-disclosures. These people are idiots. The ethics committee already passed Jared and Ivanka a long, long time ago. The FBI said that Trump and his dad had no Russian connections a long, long time ago. There was, 100,000-page report by Clapper and his director of National Intelligence Office, which said there was no Trump collusion. Remember, Clapper said he did not agree with what Comey was testifying. Remember, none of those agencies, when they said 17 agencies agreed, lied, then it got down to 4, then it got down to 3, then it got down to 1 of them looked at the other 2 and didn't agree with the other 2. That's the truth. There's nobody who agreed that there was any Russian collusion. Sputnik and RT are Russian stations. They were not Russian meddling. That's the only evidence they have. That and Dmitry Alperovich's lies about the...
Yeah, where is Dmitry?
He's a Russian.
I know, but why don't we hear anything? Haven't they figured this out, how he was involved?
Dmitry put his tail between his legs and left since we started hammering on him. He and his dad. Have you heard a word about Michael Alperovich or another? Because I took his exact words in both of his public interviews after he said he went to the DNC, and they were so absolutely ridiculous. He literally says, no, I made up the part about Putin because I hate him. That's what he says in an interview. And then it was scrubbed from the internet. But that's what he says. He said, I made that stuff up because I'm still mad at Putin for kicking my dad, Michael Alperovich, out. But Michael Alperovich controls the encryption systems of most of the military and corporate agencies, as well as all the satellites in America. Folks, we are under siege. This is no joke. Even there are pundits out there, even though there are people trying to understand this who can't understand it, it's because the disinformation is so profound. Read our new article that's coming out about the subliminal control of everything you hear. Everything that comes from the government has subliminal messaging in it. It's as simple as that. And if you think otherwise, just do your research, do your homework, and you'll see that it's not. And what we have here is the first time, just like George Washington. Okay, let's remember George Washington. I think he had, I may be incorrect in this, someone can correct me. I think he had 14 battles, 12 of which he retreated from, one of which he went over in the middle of the night and attacked them after they'd gotten drunk, a bunch of Hessian mercenaries. He crossed the Delaware. And then Yorktown was because the French Armada showed up. So here's George Washington. He's just like Trump. He may be the only man walking around Valley Forge. Don't give up. If it wasn't for George Washington, there would be no America. One person. You might be that person, either before, during, or after this battle. You might be the person who goes in and protects those two little boxes in that Excel spreadsheet so the election numbers down in Alabama don't get reversed at the last minute by a hacker, which is what Karl Rove was an expert at, the man in the middle, as Betsy was talking about this. If you think our elections are honest, give up on that concept. Until we have paper ballots that can be counted again and again and again.
And purple on your thumb. I mean, it's got to be simple, and everybody needs to see it. And this whole thing about the man in the middle.
I have to have an ID with a picture on it to buy a donut. Why would I not need one to vote?
That's another one of their propaganda things, and people get their mind all twisted with it. But that's changing.
Okay, so what's happening with Mueller is he's trying to get fired. Just think, Betsy, if right now Donald Trump got really mad and did his famous hand gesture and said, Mueller, you're an asshole, you are fired, right? America would go back, Antifa would come back in vogue, Black Lives Matter would start murdering more policemen. We would hear the whole Hillary Clinton.
And then it would be Mueller the martyr.
The other day, I thought I'd heard the last of misogynist, homophobic, xenophobic, but Hillary Clinton is still out on the trail saying those words, which none of those describe Donald Trump at all. I wouldn't mind if there was accurate attacks against Donald Trump. It's the lies, it's the falsehoods that just make me laugh because they don't know who they're attacking. He's a George Washington. Washington had 9 holes in his hat and his clothes after his first French and Indian attack. In the first battle, he had 2 horses shot out from underneath him. Donald Trump is not giving up, and he is protected because of all of our love and our prayers. And that's what is reinstating the Republic of America.